The Korean War, a forgotten war that should not be forgotten. June 25, 1950. At dawn, the silence was shattered by artillery fire. The Korean War had begun. The Korean Peninsula, only a few years free from Japanese colonial rule, was divided between North and South. But in the summer of 1950, North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and launched a full-scale invasion. Within days, ordinary life collapsed into chaos. Seoul fell in just 3 days. Cities turned to ashes. Families were torn apart. Millions of refugees fled south. Entire towns burned to the ground. Children cried in fear while families left everything behind in a desperate struggle to survive. This was not just a Korean conflict. It became a global war. The United Nations responded immediately. 16 nations sent combat troops: the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Turkey, and Australia among them. In total, more than 60 nations provided military, medical, or financial aid. A war on a small peninsula had become a flashpoint of the Cold War. Battles like the Incheon Landing and the Chosin Reservoir became legendary, but at a terrible cost. The bold amphibious assault at Incheon turned the tide, but the entry of massive Chinese forces pushed the conflict back into stalemate. The war raged across mountains and rivers. Soldiers and civilians alike paid an unbearable price. By the time the armistice was signed in 1953, the toll was staggering. Over 3 million people were killed, both military and civilian. Millions more were displaced, forced to leave their homes. Much of the Korean peninsula lay in ruins. The war ended in a ceasefire, but not in peace. The Korean War never truly ended. Only an armistice was signed, leaving North and South Korea technically still at war. Decades later, the demilitarized zone remains one of the most heavily armed borders in the world. The conflict's shadow still lingers. Yet out of the ashes, South Korea rose, from ruins and despair. It built one of the most dynamic nations on Earth. Today, South Korea stands as a global leader in technology, culture, and democracy. But this success was born from sacrifice, resilience, and a painful history. The Korean War reminds us, peace is fragile, and freedom always comes at a cost.